What is up, everyone? Welcome to Mechs on Deck. How is everyone's night going? As of Wednesday. Today, our guest is MechMerlin. How you doing, my dude?
Hello! How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Chewy?
It's not like we've been talking for the last half hour or anything like that.
God, you're pulling back the curtains, man.
Oh my gosh.
Mechs on Deck secret. We start at 7:45. Whoa.
You guys should rename the stream MechMerlin on Deck.
Oh,
MechMerlin's on Deck.
Merlin's on deck. Who's here? Zark, Zark, Nebby, Jeff Leopard, Axoc 10 Strong, Drakstar. My aunt's testicles. Solid name.
Nice.
Pluto, Carl Q, Venom, Metal Chuck. Welcome, Frothy KK, Gab __A. Welcome, everybody, to another episode. Another interview, another just chatting, while we will ask him questions. We'll also bring up, we have a little bit of spice today, just a smidge. Just I guess more vintage than anything. But real quick, shout out to our sponsors, mechsondeck.dixiemech.com, and you can go get GMK Burgundy, which is the only set I think MechMerlin can 100% support because it's got the wine cap on it. So
sure, I don't actually like the set, but sure, why not?
It's 100% supported by him. Don't
Dixie
listen to him.
One
He
of
loves
my
it.
sponsors too, so yeah, Burgundy.
Yeah, go Burgundy.
Go Burgundy. Go get Burgundy. Last couple, you got like what, 9 days left? 9 days, I believe. As long if it's going through the 31st, which I should know that, but I just assume. Be sure to go check that out. As well as Zap Cables. He put up some cables. He put up some ready to buy cables. So be sure to go check those out. Those are pretty cool looking, if I do say so myself, as well as he's got some awesome desk mats and other items on there. So be sure to check him out.
Frisco Melt, thank you for the 5 months Prime sub. Really appreciate it. Next up, we've got Project Keyboard. You can head on over to the link listed there. Pick up a Tengu. Oh, I'm just hitting stuff, aka one of these. Get yourself a Tengu. I'm going to be building this prototype next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central, so be sure to come back by then and check it out. And then, of course, last but not least, go to switchmod.net/mechsondeck. Get 4% off whatever he's got in stock. And then we've got the special going right now of
you can ignore that last message
of the $5 off GMK Metaverse. So GMK Metaverse 2 is running this month into mid next month. You can click one of those links. You know, I'm partial to saying you should click Osiris and get $5 off.
Axo, we don't even know.
Yeah,
he's hiding it.
We got like an update the first day, but then we haven't gotten an update since.
And it was a tie. So at this point, we don't know, and he's basically going to keep it hidden from us. So
yeah,
even more fun.
At the end of the day, if you're looking at getting Metaverse, use one of the links. You get $5 off. It helps us, and you get $5 off. So I don't know why you wouldn't. So check it out.
Why is MechMerlin wearing a Mickey Mouse hat? Well, that's a good little intro for those who don't know, Mr. MechMerlin. If you have probably been affected by Mr. Merlin in some way, shape, or form. If you are in the community, he is the QMK wizard. He has put in, I'm sure, over 100 PCBs by now into QMK.
No,
Uh,
not really.
not
People
really.
think it's like that
Yeah.
just because I'm quite active. But as of last count, the last count I did, which was in November, I've only done 52.
52. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, still, that's 52 PCBs.
So there are over
As well,
500 boards in QMK. So I only account for 10%, I guess.
I'm sure you've helped on other boards as well, though, as well as countless times I've seen you help with QMK in general and being a big part of QMK Configurator. Welcome to the stream, my dude.
Thank
Tell us
you.
about the
Thank you for
hat.
having me. Tell us about the hat. All right. Okay. So the first keyboard meetup I went to, it was the Seattle. Well, it's not the first one I went to, but the first big one I went to was Seattle Winter. By the way, the 2020 Seattle Winter Meetup is happening this Saturday. So if you're in Seattle, definitely come by, check in. It's at the Living Computer Museum. If you bring a keyboard, you get free. But yeah, this was at the same place just 3 years back. There were about 120 people. My wife was looking for me and could not find me, and it was so loud that all of her calls to me just got missed. And then I was like, there has got to be a better way to find me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm a wizard. I should wear a wizard hat. So now,
Hmm.
ever since I've worn this wizard hat, it's been really easy for her to find me at meetups. So yeah, that's the practical reason I wear it.
It's easy to find you at meetups with a hat, and you don't
Yeah.
even have to be there. I was looking for you at the NorCal meetup, and I was like, "Oh, where is he?" And I was like, "Oh no, can't miss him. Just look for the wizard hat."
It's funny if you were at the SoCal meetup, the group I was staying with all decided to buy the exact same hat. So if you check out my Instagram post, you'll see like about 7 of us sitting around like this lounge, and we all have this hat on. There are videos of us chanting QMK key codes. I'm not sure who has posted it yet.
Dixie Mech, thank you. Welcome to the Blue M Club.
The Blue M Club.
Roll Tide. So, as you are, if, as you have, I'm sure watched every single episode of Mechs on Deck, and you're a diehard fan. I'm humbled by your commitment to Mechs on Deck. So you obviously know about the Fast Four. So first and foremost, top 4 favorite switches.
Yes, I'm such a diehard fan that I've included the first 4 letters of your name into my own name. Okay, four switches. Okay, let's see. I think I've been a tactile fan for so long. Like it's only last year that I switched to linear that I actually chose 2 tactiles and 2 linears. So in terms of tactile, Zelio V2s and Holy Pandas. And in terms of linears, something I made myself that I've been absolutely in love with. This is a UHM WPE stem in a Gateron ink housing, followed by a Gateron ink, just a regular Gateron ink.
Can't go wrong. Brez, if you're in the chat, that one's a freebie for you. Shout to
Why?
Brez. Brez is going through and he's scrubbing through all our old videos and creating a list of what everyone says.
Oh dang! I don't even know that.
Interesting.
So shout out to Brez.
Yeah, we need the sheet. We need the spreadsheet.
The spreadsheet just of all the guests which switches they like.
If you want to get a room, I love it. Brez, shout out. Sounds like you should try a Zyko, by the way.
Yeah,
If
you
Zelio's
love
holy.
Zycos.
That's true. That's true. I did try a Zyko when I
That's
met you
right.
guys in
Yeah.
NorCal, and I really liked them. It's just when you go to a meetup, you don't have much time on like
Mhm.
every keyboard. I felt like I typed on your Zykos maybe for 2 minutes. Like I like them, but until I have them to play with it, I can't really say that
Mhm.
I would love them to put on my own boards.
Yeah, they're a
Totally
bit
fair.
they're a bit intense too. But once you
Yeah.
get used to it, you're like, oh wow, this is awesome.
It's fun.
The next of the Fast Four will be your top 4 favorite key sets, and we'll eliminate
Oh
GMK
gosh.
Merlin from that conversation.
Okay, well, it's just key sets that I currently have. Top favorite key set of all time for me has definitely been GMK Nautilus. Yeah, followed by GMK Serica. Yeah, I'm a big Zambumon fan. Let's see, and in terms, and then prior to probably 3 months ago, I was really into SA Godspeed just because I liked Godspeed call and GMK Hyperfuse, which I regret selling.
Which round did you have? Round one?
Of Hyperfuse,
Yeah.
not the Bunny Lake round, because if I was, I still wouldn't have mine. but but I've already received mine and I've already sold it, which I regret. Hopefully it will come again.
Nice.
There you go. Well, Machinova, thank you for the 69 bits. Always appreciated. Next up, top 4 favorite keyboards.
Oh, that's a harder one. I'll talk about the 4 that I really like right now. Satisfaction 75 is probably going to be my favorite board. Hopefully building it either this week or next. I actually just got a plate from Project Keyboard, so yeah, hopefully I'll be able to build it. Well, after that, the Volcano 660, which I just built this past weekend. This guy right here, I've been waiting for this board for quite a while.
Oof, it's beautiful.
There we go. So I've been typing on it ever since I finished building it. And the next two that I'd have to think about, oh yeah, my TX60, and let's see, what's the other board that Iron 165. That's the one that I missed out on.
Well, all solid boards. Especially, I just rebuilt my TX60 last night and loving it.
Yeah. I'm feeling the need, the want to change mine up a little bit.
What do you have in yours?
I have Zelio V1s in it, and I'm thinking about maybe changing it up.
Same here, actually.
So,
Well, there you go.
Sorry. Jacob T, and thank you for the 4-month resub. Definitely appreciate that. And then last but not least, your top 4 favorite foods.
Top 4 favorite foods. I'm big on eating Japanese food. So number 1, any kind of sashimi. Well, like the higher the grade, the better. Followed by tonkatsu. Any kind of curry. I guess like the 4th one. I guess I'm a big fan of pasta. So just take me to any pasta joint, and I will be happy.
Nice. I just had some pasta tonight.
You can't go wrong with pasta. I had pizza tonight. Same family-ish.
What kind of pizza did you have? What kind of pizza?
It's just homemade pizza. Like homemade.
Not DiGiorno's.
Not DiGiorno. It's like a Greek yogurt dough. So it's not. This sounds like, if you don't like yogurt, this sounds disgusting, but it's delicious. You just make a dough out of Greek yogurt, so it's a lot less carby. And then you just throw a bunch of cheese on it to take all that health right out the window. So less
I'm
bread,
actually
more
not
cheese.
a big fan of pizza.
Oof.
I'm not a big fan of pizza at all.
Just call it keto, low
Exactly.
carb, high fat. You're good.
Give me that cheese. So, but anyway, so I guess we usually start, for those who don't know, how did you get into the hobby?
How did I get into the hobby? Oh my gosh. I think it was around 2012, 2013, that time period. I had a coworker who bought a Poker 3, and I noticed almost like every month he would have a new keyboard, and since I sat right next to him, he'd come over and then he'd be like, "Hey, check out my new board, check out my new board." And I'd be, "How much did you spend on that?" He's like, "Oh, this Poker, spent 130 on this, and look at these keycaps, these Taihao keycaps." And I'm $30 for keycaps? Dude, I can buy a keyboard for $30, you know? And during this time period, I was using I think I still have it. It's an Acer Rubber Dome that was in the 96 key compact format, and that was my main work board for like a good number of years. But what was happening was over like a year or two, I was noticing that I was developing some shoulder pain on my right side just because it's a longer keyboard. So my coworker was like, "Here, you should try out this board, this poker, see if you like." So I started typing on this 60%, and I'm like, I noticed that like within a day, my shoulder pain disappeared, and I was like, oh, I should totally consider getting this. And then I told him that I was gonna buy that 75% Bluetooth Apple keyboard, and it was like 85, $90. He's like, don't buy that, buy a poker. Don't buy that, buy a poker. And he eventually convinced me to get a poker.
Sounds like a good man.
Yeah, that's how I got started. This was like 2012, 2013, somewhere there.
So Racing Draft asks, when did customs really start? It's kind of hard to put a number on it, put a year.
I feel like before 2010 for sure.
Yeah, but it's like I feel like customs have come in waves of like yes, they're there, and then they got more popular, and then they got more popular, and then they got more popular. So it's like once more stuff came out, then more people came in, then more stuff was able to be produced, and then what the world? Sorry.
Yeah.
Angry dogs.
It definitely has been around for a little bit, but I don't think, I mean, they had the stuff in Korea that was a little bit better for a long time, like the OTD stuff. But
that was like top of the line. There's only one person I know who has one, and he still hasn't built it.
Oof. So, as I said earlier, for those who don't know, he is a 10% wizard of QMK. So how did you kind of get into? I imagine you have some sort of coding background, without giving away too much information. You at least appear on stream. You know how to code. So
I sure fooled everyone.
But how did you kind of get into helping out with QMK and that whole process of getting QMK configurator set up and all of that?
Let's see. So I first got introduced to QMK/TMK probably 2014, 2015 time frame. I just bought an Alp 64 from Hazu, and I was trying to follow his instructions on TMK on how to create my own key map and how to flash it on my board. And I wasn't going anywhere, you know? Then someone was like, hey, why don't you try QMK? And so I looked into it, and there was more documentation, so it was easier for me to follow. So I built my key map, but I got stuck on the flashing because I was using a Windows machine and I didn't know what tools to use. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'll just stick with the default firmware. And fast forward to maybe 2016 or so, I just got a Duck Octagon V2, and I had got O2D working, and I had like my key map set and everything. Everything was good. And okay, so if you've never used O2D before, have you guys used O2D?
Nope.
For Duck?
no.
Okay. It is extremely confusing, and all the instructions are in Korean. And people such as Invisibility have translated a lot of it, but sometimes that documentation is really hard to find. So what happens is you finally get your key map and you flash your firmware, right? But you need to have like the right version of the O2D tool to work with your keyboard. So after a few months, my computer died, and I lost the tool, and I lost the hex file. And I was just kind of like, well, I can't program my board anymore, right? So I I must have spent like a good couple hours trying to track down the right tool and the right documentation, and I just could not do it. So you're right. I am a software engineer. Being a software engineer, I'm just like, maybe I could get QMK to work with this. And yeah, it worked.
Well, there you go.
Definitely appreciate it, because there's like I know Chewy has hit you up for questions about QMK, and I know that you get hit up all the time, and your streams are a great place to go to learn about QMK. Because I remember when I was first trying to learn QMK, like learn how to use it, I was watching your videos on YouTube of like the step-by-step tutorial
Oh yeah.
of how to use QMK, how to get everything over into the configurator and get everything all flashed and whatnot. So definitely
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, I need to update those videos. QMK updates so fast that if you look at my video right now and the QMK configurator, look at what QMK configurator currently is. Buttons are in different locations. Maybe the graphics are like a little different as well. So I need to put an update soon.
Yeah, and Chewy ran into that a couple months ago when we were doing, I can't remember what board you were building, but you were like, wait, where's the download? one of the download
Yeah,
links
right?
had
It's
moved
just
over,
gone.
and he's just like,
It's just like,
wait, what?
all right, dude, cool.
Yeah.
But
It needs a refresh.
well, and even I worked on some recently. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and unluckily, but luckily, we found the problem is that I was missing a very particular driver. The problem is I
Yeah,
have
that's
no idea how
usually
to.
the case. That's always the case.
I have no idea where to even begin finding said driver. So the guy that was helping me out a lot, he was just like, "Yeah, go ahead and just tell me what you want and I'll build it for you."
So why the name MechMerlin, and where does the Merlin come from?
The Merlin. So Merlin is a play on my last name. I've actually been called Merlin my entire life because people couldn't pronounce my last. So I've always just gone by it. I went by a different name when I entered the hobby. Like I forgot. I think I was like SWAT team something, you know. And
XX
then I
SWAT
changed
team
it to like
XX.
Merlin. Yeah, something like that. But then I switched to Merlin once I got involved in Geek Hack.
Nice.
But if you notice, like it's always like a different number at the end. It was just whatever Merlin was available at the time.
Absolutely. It's the same way for me. Like the reason why my O is a 0 for Osiris is because Osiris is taken
Yeah.
everywhere. So
I should do like Merlin with the E as a 3. Merlin.
Merlin. I have to do that because Chewy's a pretty popular name, I guess. And so I did 2 W's, but then like my Twitch Chewy is like it's one of those like eyeball things, like fake emotes, and then I have to throw in numbers every now and then on like certain games and stuff. So I feel you on that. So I guess my next question, I guess describe the process if you can,
Oh my gosh.
if you are able to, um, of somebody. I'm sure this has happened where someone goes, "Hey, I'm building this board. I want this PC. I'm building a PCB. I want the PCB to be in QMK." I guess maybe describe the process of how all that goes down.
Actually, someone did reach out to me today asking that very same question.
Huh.
Basically, I just have them send me the PCB, and like I can get it done on stream. if it's a fairly common PCB, like it's got an Atmega 32U4, like if I'm not streaming, I can do that maybe in like half an hour. So it's really not a long process. Like before, if you watch my earlier streams, there's a lot more coding involved. But as 2019 went through, we started automating a lot of the processes. So now it's just, if you watch my latest stream, it's just me running scripts and like filling out blanks. I'm like, all right, there we go.
Look how awesome I am.
Yeah, exactly. It's,
Look at
I'm
how
like,
easy this is.
watch Merlin copy and paste and say coding. I'm just copy and pasting. Yeah, but in regards to what the process is, usually people send me the PCB, and I've noticed a lot of people who commission these PCBs, don't have the files to make the PCB, or B, don't know what the pins are. So in more than one occasion, I've had to take the PCB and use the multimeter and just figure it all on my own. But once I figured out what the pins are and how each of the switches are connected, then I can take that information and plug it into the scripts that QMK has, and it should generate everything for me. So I've revealed my secret here.
Oof.
Okay.
Copycats coming out hot.
Yeah, and I agree with Talisman. I thought the Merlin was from. I thought you were a big Sword in the Stone or King Arthur fan,
No.
and that's why you went for
No,
that.
it's just people not pronouncing my name properly.
It does it does fit though.
Youthful,
Yeah, it does.
his
It does.
youthful appearance.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the
My
age
youthful appearance.
It's actually
I'm
like
actually
600
450 years old.
There it is. More secrets coming out. So I guess if you can answer this, what is the hardest PCB that you've had to work on?
The
to get
hardest
working in
PCB.
QMK? Giving you the most trouble.
What's given me the most trouble has historically been duck keyboards. Primarily because the way that the duck keyboard uses is it uses an Atmega 32U4 microcontroller, same with I'd say 80% of the boards in QMK. But if you've never used a duck keyboard before, some of their features are number one, RGB underglow, number two, zone lighting. And by zone lighting, I mean you can have like your F row light up a different color, or just have it light up on its own. You can have your alphas, you can have your mod keys, you can have your arrow keys, numpad, all light up at different times and in different rates. So that is one of Duck's features. So the way they do that is they take each of those lighting segments and they connect it to a different pin on the microcontroller. But a consequence of that is that the Atmega 32U4 doesn't have enough pins to drive the rest of the switch matrix. So they end up using two, let's call them port expanders, to expand the number of columns you can do. So in many cases, like they've got two of them, like for the TCB3, which I still need to push to QMK. I've already got it done. It's working. I just haven't had time to actually do the fit and finish on it. But yeah, that one uses two of the port expanders. And that took me a while because I kind of did something backwards. So when I was pressing A, I was actually triggering like the enter key. But yeah, those are the more difficult ones. Lately, we're starting to see more ARM-based boards, and I have no experience porting an ARM-based board yet, though Mr. Petrov has sent me an ARM board that I can play with. So hopefully I'll find the time to learn how to do that.
So have you ever had a board come in and you're just like, yep, never mind? Has there ever been one?
Yeah. Yeah. uh, sometimes people send me a PCB without testing that it actually works. So this was probably like early on, maybe February of 2019. Someone sent me a prototype board. So because it's a prototype board, I can't really talk about it. But yeah, they just sent me this board, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I can port this into QMK. It's got your typical Atmega 32U4. The no port expanders should work just fine, right? I started poking away at it, and I noticed that there were some pins, like there was an entire row where the diodes weren't properly connected. And I was just kind of like, okay, so are these different columns, different rows? But no, so basically, even with the port done, even if I did it correctly, his board still wouldn't work because it was an issue with his PCB. And I couldn't actually, and then he asked me what he should do about it. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a PCB designer.
Well, if like the Merlin 60 came out, like, I mean, why would you get anything else?
But yeah, that said person has not sent me another PCB since. So who knows if I'll ever see a non-prototype.
So, sorry, let me pull up what I had. So I guess, obviously, if for those who have not tried QMK, actual QMK, it can be difficult. It can be daunting especially people who are not experienced in any sort of coding, like myself. You have made, or at least done, a huge part in helping get QMK Configurator off the ground. Which, thank you again. I just feel like every 5 minutes I should just say thank you because you've provided this service that has truly revolutionized the community. Because I mean, there's so many people that use QMK Configurator, and I know you helped because your hat's on the home screen. So, also, why potatoes?
Yeah,
Why
why
potatoes?
potatoes? Why are we baking a potato?
I don't know. I think it's that's actually a very good question. I think Jack likes potatoes or something. We actually have an official QMK cocktail in which you garnish the drink with the potato, and it's called the QMK Daisy. Well, yeah, I guess it's our spirit vegetable.
It's a starch, right? I thought it was a
Spirit
starch.
vegetable.
It is,
Hey,
it is starch. Hey, you know.
calling a potato a vegetable, I'm okay. I'm on board with it. So, and then what kind of launched that idea? Was it just we want to make something for the community, or was it more of like personal, like I want to make something that I can easily go in and edit this? Or
So QMK Configurator was originally launched by Jack Humbert. Um, Basically, we were seeing that this predates me, by the way. We were seeing that not everyone is a software engineer. Not everyone is familiar with Linux. Not everyone knows how to code or can understand how to code. So by keeping QMK just completely command line, completely Linux based, and all that, it's unfair in a way. It doesn't help the community grow. When people have trouble, people just give up. Just because it's too hard, it's too complex. So we wanted to at least get the key map part working. So these days, like the most common question is how do I flash my board? Back then, 2015, 16, 17, it was how do I create a key map? And people would give up before even creating a key map, not even getting to the flashing part. But yeah, around 2018, end of 2018, I believe Yan, who is actually a web designer, joined in, he became one of the collaborators. He actually became a collaborator before me, and we definitely leveraged a lot of his skill set, improved the design of QMK Configurator. In fact, everything that you see changed in QMK Configurator, like all of the UI, how like the buttons work, how the baking potato comes up, that's all Yan's work. Yeah, my work primarily with QMK Configurator has been to promote it. So my official title in QMK is QMK Community Ambassador. So my work has been to promote it and to upload the, what do you call them? The layout file so that your board looks pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So are you the one that made it to where you can select different key sets? To where
That was I'm not sure who proposed the idea, but I remember talking about it, just throwing up something fun for like people to do. It's just that we've noticed that because QMK is open source, right? A lot of designers don't necessarily want their colors publicized. So every time we reach out to a designer and be like, hey, can we use your colorway for QMK Configurator? We have to remind them, by the way, we're open. So if you tell us what the colors are, anyone can go into the code and figure that out on their own because we have to publicize it.
Right. And then, so I feel like I want to talk about VIA.
Okay.
And so
I just learned how to do VIA last night.
I was about to say, is that something
Good
that you're
timing.
getting into? What are your thoughts on that, and where it basically has taken what had started with QMK and then been integrated into VIA?
So it's funny. So I first heard of VIA, or what would eventually become VIA, was on the Top Clack Discord. Wilbur was talking about this great idea, and I reached out to him saying I would be willing to test any kind of implementation, and we just chatted about it. And yeah, this was like maybe early 2019, late 2018. I was really excited that this would be something that would make it easier for, like, buying keyboards is already difficult. Number one, you need money. Sometimes you need $400, $500, $800. It's not like anyone can just do that. Number two, you need to have good timing. Number three, you need to be up to date with all of the news. So it's already difficult to get the keyboard you want unless you're really into the community. But then doing QMK, despite QMK Configurator, the flashing bit is still really difficult. So I was excited for Wilbur to do this. And yeah, he did it with the help of Olivia. So for those of you who don't know, VIA is actually called VIA because of Olivia. It's just the second half of her name.
Mm-hmm.
And VIA is not a different firmware. It is a different tool. It's a user interface that sits on top of QMK, because QMK is the firmware. So VIA just controls QMK firmware on your board.
Well, it brought us on the fly flashing, which I think we can all agree
Oh yeah,
is
absolutely.
the absolute best thing. While it looks pretty, and while everything is Olivia, dark Olivia themed,
Dark Olivia, yeah.
regardless, it brought us on the fly flashing, which
Already
for the
existed in the community, by the way, in tools such as Bootmapper Client and Ggon, I believe, did the same.
don't even say that word.
But to be fair, yeah, that one's
here's
bad.
a box. Here's a box. Good luck figuring it out. Jesus.
Yeah, it's this is I feel like it's very important for the community to have this, and I do applaud our Korean brethren for coming up with this in place already. I just wish that they had been more forthcoming about information regarding it, or at the very least information on how to properly use it. So Boot Mapper client could have been so much more.
No, I know. I was like, when I had to figure out Jigon, I think I went and watched Huey struggle,
Oh, I remember that.
and I
I
was
remember
like,
that
but then he
too.
was slowly figuring it out, and then I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And I was just watching him make the mistakes over and over. Not that he was doing it bad. Like, honestly, for those who don't know, this is it'd be the equivalent of picking up a grid and being like, okay, guess where your keys are. Like, have fun.
Okay, yeah.
And so, but I remember watching him and just staring at that for like 2 hours trying to figure it out. I mean, I'll say this: once you kind of understand how everything's working, it actually is pretty easy to use. But there's just like a huge learning curve to getting to the point where it can be easy, as is most things. But no, Via has really like changed the way I think
Absolutely.
keyboards, as like being able to just whoop and done up, and there's my lighting. Like, one thing that box boards will always do better is, since it's just one centralized software, or maybe three, they can just make the software. They have the money to make the software and do crazy things on it because they're only having to make it work for 2-3 PCBs. And VIA is kind of that first step into threatening that level of like customizability.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Well, and they also have like multiple people working on it. They have the same
that are
like,
getting paid.
yeah, they have the same program they've had for like 10 years, and they've just updated the code on it and make it better over and over again.
Do either of you have experience with Boot Mapper client?
I had to use it once to. I was in a situation where I thought I was going to brick my PCB, and Bootmapper was the only way out of it. And so once I got into
Okay.
Bootmapper, I was able to get into Boot, saved it from bricking, and then I
Okay.
kind of had to work my way back, and that was not a good time.
I think I used it once for
It's still fairly
Orange.
prevalent. Like the TGR Jane come with it, the canoes come with it, the Singa came with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a specific controller, right? That uses the Bootmapper
Mm-hmm.
client. Yeah, because I know the
Key.
Orange 75
Yeah, Orange 75.
can use it.
That too.
Fuck that PCB.
Why? What happened to yours?
Well, it's not
Not mine.
It's not
Not
necessarily
mine.
what happened to mine. It's just like the PCB design as a whole is just terrible. So like the way the PCB is designed is the top, I guess it's the top right. There's a section where it goes, instead of doing like a daughter board, it's just an extension on the PCB.
Yeah.
For the
okay.
USB, but that's also where they sat the controller. So the controller is
interesting.
on the extension, and so it's like, I don't know. It's like you put it in the most, like, the easiest spot for it to get damaged, and the PCB itself is not great, and it's also super one-off because of that design. And it's like, if you would have just done a like somewhat normal PCB design, then it would have been so much easier to get them remade or get them produced. So
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like we complain about that one so much.
Hey, and it needs to be complained about until they fix it.
So the Orange 75, that's the one which has the pizza on the back, right?
Yeah.
The pizza weight. Okay. Have you seen the case for it? Like the protection case for it?
Mm-mm.
It's like the most gaudy thing I've seen. It's like fake leather.
Oh yeah, the box. I have mine somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, the box is like, it's like bright green, but it's textured like leather. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's awesome. Thank you for ideas for the Baka. So, but yeah, and then here's just a gripe, and I've griped about this recently. I bitched at you about this, Merlin, like 2 weeks ago, about releasing. Companies will just say, because a lot of these guys doing QMK, they don't get paid to do QMK. They might take, I don't know the QMK process. They might take orders. They might, go, hey, if you want me to put in a QMK, just let me know. We can talk about this as a transaction, because you do need to pay people for time. And I think the entire community owes Jack and Merlin and all the guys that work on QMK probably just like a cool $100 each, like under the table, for the amount of times that
I'll take you up on that any day.
So, but a lot of these, one of the best things to say, about a PCB, if you're looking at a group buy and you're having to go custom PCB, is going, well, is it QMK compatible? Because that's the standard for the community. And these companies sometimes will go, yeah, it's QMK compatible, it's VIA compatible. And when you get your PCB, it doesn't work and it's not in QMK, and you have to kind of figure it out. And then they go, oh, well, it's here. It's on this, it's in 14 different folders that you have to pull, and it's there and it's there, or they just don't have it. So I guess when you come across that situation where they're like, hey, we've already released this, but we need you to get it to work, like what kind of, I imagine that puts you in an awkward situation. Also, how do you feel about that entirety?
In entirety, okay. So both VIA and QMK are both open source projects. So, well, I'm not sure what the VIA license is, but for QMK, it's a GPL license. So essentially, if you were to use QMK and you add stuff to it, you also need to release all your modifications to it. And because it's an open source project, anyone can fork it, anyone can download it and get their board into it and keep it in their own little repository and still claim QMK, because that would still be true. It just wouldn't be the most up-to-date QMK. So in terms of what they're doing, there's nothing actually wrong with what these vendors are doing. When they say it's supported by QMK, it is supported by QMK. But the one thing but the benefit of putting a board into QMK master is, number one, you will always get the most up-to-date core changes, and you'll also get like customer service from people like me and the rest of the staff. And you will also have access to QMK Configurator. So QMK Configurator is like, I don't think any other vendor has tried doing something like QMK Configurator. So that's the problem. And
I think the
like the same
closest
can
I've
be,
seen,
sorry?
oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, I think the closest I've seen is the Rama M6B has something different, but it's not. I don't
Is
know
it
if it's
VIA?
exactly. I think it might be VIA now. I think it may have been
Okay.
like an early stage of VIA.
Okay.
It was called something different, but it could have just been, that could have straight up just been VIA, and I not known about it because it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Like it's definitely an annoying problem, but technically there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. It's bad customer service, I'd say. It's bad customer support. You do your group by customers a huge disservice by doing that. And all it really takes is to reach out to someone on the QMK staff and be like, hey, can you help me put this into QMK? And we will help you. We will help you get it in. No problem. Just takes a little communication.
Well, there you go. I've learned something, that
Yeah.
QMK, that it can be in QMK.
Yeah.
It just might be impossible for you to find. And I guess, you know, what I would maybe suggest to any group buy runners or whatever is, if you say, oh, I'm going a custom PCB, one, I would highly recommend just mailing a PCB. Like, it might cost you one PCB and a little bit of postage, but like that's going to be huge for customer, like trying to get that board into someone who can do QMK efficiently. into their hands before you ship the rest out. I mean, that's just basic, like making sure your board works 101. Like if you say, oh, it's going to be QMK, I think a lot of people, myself included, are going to assume, oh, it's in QMK configurator. I can just scroll down and find it. So
not always the case. Like what usually happens, which is this like sucks big time because I usually hear about a PCB in this exact scenario, not from the vendor, not from the group buy, but from an unhappy customer. And to me, I'm like, sure, I will help this guy get this dealt with and have it into QMK configurator. It only half an hour of my time. It's really no big deal. But at the same time, QMK, the organization, is not responsible for keeping your customers happy.
Mm.
You know,
but thank you for
ultimately
keeping
his
us
job.
happy.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit. It's one of those things that's like, yes, it's technically not bad or wrong what the vendors do or what specific manufacturers do by not putting things in, but it's kind of like, really? Come on. I just spent so much money on a keyboard and now I can't use it correctly. Like if you get a 60% and it's not in QMK right away, it's a new PCB that's not in there and you can't do split backspace, then you're just like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah,
use my
exactly.
layout.
I've got a useless key, and no, my layout's jacked up. But
I feel like part of it though is a lot of these vendors who are guilty of doing something are based in China. I've always wondered maybe it's a language barrier. Like maybe they look at QMK and it's all in English and they're intimidated, so they assume everyone speaks English. But just so if any vendors are watching this in China, I actually speak Mandarin because I was born and raised in Taiwan.
boom,
Yeah.
there it is. But yeah, and that's a part of, you mentioned earlier, QMK configurator is probably one of the top 3 reasons this community has been able to grow at the rate that it has, because you've made it, not to be offensive, but you made it dummy proof. You've made it to where you go, okay, I see the keyboard on the screen, and that makes sense to me, and all I have to do is click and find what key I want there. And then that gets people also going into, okay, well, now I'm not as scared to try out layers, and I'm not as scared to try out different formats and all that stuff. And that just gets people, further and further in. And, I've seen people who go, oh, I can't do anything outside of like a TKL. And I'm like, well, have you tried layers? I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with layers. I'm like, well, if you try it, it's because it's not hard to set up, especially through Configurator. It's not hard to try out to set it up and maybe give it a shot. 60%. Once I realized that all the keys that I primarily use can be on the first layer, and then any of the secondary on the second layer. Thanks, 001 Anthony. That you can kind of do everything from this small form factor, and then you get further and further into hobby. So thanks. I just feel like this entire episode should just be called Mechs on Deck Thanks MechMerlin over and over. We'll have to get Jack on here and just
so keep in mind I'm only one of several collaborators within QMK.
We appreciate all of you.
There are plenty of other people who work on it just as much or more than I do.
Well, you're the liaison, so you can.
That's true.
And you're getting some love.
I'm the ambassador.
You're getting some love from your peers and from Olivia and Wilba in terms of the VIA. So they're both.
Shout out to Wilba, by the way. Like, Wilba's cool.
Yeah. Olivia taught me VIA last night.
Olivia, so I had
disastrous, but it worked.
I don't want to flame the person because they're very nice, and it honestly it was just a really poor situation. but a PCB came out and it was not. They said it worked in VIA and it didn't work in VIA, and the person was like on vacation. and I'm sitting there like I'm like hitting up Olivia. I'm like, and hitting up the person's server and being like, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? Like, what am I doing wrong? And there was one day where Olivia literally just sat with me while I screen shared looking at the code, and I was just like, I was just like the baby Yoda looking up, like, just help me. And she got it fixed. So
I need to watch that. So no spoilers.
No spoilers. Baby Yoda's in it, and it's about Star Wars. So
okay, yeah, fair enough.
I haven't watched it either, so I'm right there with you, Merlin.
There's a guy named the Mandalorian, if you haven't figured that out from the
gosh.
show, titled The Mandalorian.
Is it about space?
Space and the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda.
There might be some wars going on there.
Oh, really?
And maybe some
okay.
stars. The wars might occur within the stars, though.
So, by the way, if you guys want to ask Mr. MechMerlin anything, by all means, please hit us in just at Mechs on Decos in the chat so we can see it. I have one question. Where do you want to see QMK go?
Where do I want to see QMK go? Ideally speaking, like there are already hints of it. If you guys ever want to know what's happening in QMK, just go on GitHub, QMK firmware's Git, and look at the incoming pull request. Like if you look at it now, like one of our goals is that QMK firmware is not just a firmware for keyboards. It can be a firmware for other things, such as mice and other things. And yeah, like if you look at the pull request right now, you'll see that Darashna, which is one of the collaborators right now, just filed a pull request for a mouse. So we'll see how far that goes. Maybe QMK will be on in the future.
If custom mice, I would be down.
Dude, if QMK could figure out for me to be able to force a 2000 hertz polling rate on my mouse sensor, I would be so excited.
You might be limited by hardware there. Yeah.
There's like only like one mouse that actually has a 2000 hertz polling rate, which I feel like probably most people in chat don't have any need for. I don't even really have a need for it. I just want it because it makes games better. But getting back to the questions, why aren't we all drinking port? First question.
Yeah, I know, right? I actually have some port, but I am staying away from alcohol for a bit just because I was really sick last week. So just easing myself into regular life again. But yeah, just to continue that question earlier, I do envision QMK firmware working on other products, but on another level, QMK firmware working on other keyboards that are sold by big name companies. Like right now, we've managed to port QMK into a Xiaomi board. We've managed to port QMK into a Ducky board. And I'd just like to see more of these things possible. Maybe Razer and Corsair one day. Who knows? Yeah.
That'd be huge.
Now, Zark, I don't know if it was the beginning of the stream or when we were talking before, but I was like, I actually thought about running to the store and just grabbing a port real quick. But
we should have talked about this. The three of us should have talked about this like a week ago.
Yeah, next time. We'll figure it.
Well, and it was, man, I felt bad because like over the weekend, Merlin hit me up and he was like, hey, can you just like let me know like what's going on Wednesday and all that? And I was like, yeah, dude, I'll get right back to you. And I just like didn't. Had some personal things come up and my weekend took a hard left turn. Then he hit me up yesterday, and being the calm, cool, collected man that he is, was just like, hey, I need stuff. It's like, I got you. I'm sorry, and I got you. So, which was funny because when you messaged me, I was streaming. And then
I figured.
and then it was funny because I was like, oh, Shit, all right, I'll do that. And then when I messaged you back, you were streaming.
Yeah.
Double Cardinal rule.
Hey,
So
that's how it works out sometime. So Violet Viceroy asks, what is your favorite PCB that you've worked with in terms of quality, programming, etc.? Doesn't have to all be the same one, I guess. There could be one that's the best in like build quality and the best that's in easiest to program. It might be different.
That's actually a good question. Boards that I've worked with directly. Trying to think. Which boards? Oh yeah, the recent Think 6.5 I thought was really, really. Actually, I might have one right here. Here we go. Is this a Think 6.5? Yes, it is. Think 6.5. Right there. I just thought this was very beautifully made. Probably one of the more beautiful PCBs that I've had the pleasure of porting into QMK. It's got like the gold traces on it. It's just beautiful. In terms of how it's actually laid out, I love it when the PCB is like, okay, for your first row, the row doesn't go zigzagging. It actually, your first row is literally your first row. So I don't have to guess where to put the multimeter. And it's the same with the columns. Your first column is up and down, not there, 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 there. So yeah, it's stuff like this which makes it cool, you know.
user friendly.
Yeah.
And it
Programmer
still baffles me that like PCBs could very well just be all like they don't have to look good at all. They don't
Yeah.
have to.
Absolutely. They don't have to look good at all. But then you have people like Wilbur with his PCBs that you're just like, oh, this is art. I could like Wilbur, if you're still on stream and you have any broken PCBs, send them my way. I'd love to like just put them in a frame and like hang them up or something.
Dude, yeah.
Oh, what's that?
That's the
This
Zeal
is the
60.
Zeal 60
ref.
PCB.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We're talking about other it might not look as beautiful, but putting the letters over what it is and putting what key it's supposed to be on the PCB, huge help.
Oh yeah.
Huge help. When you turn around, you go, what key is this? And then you turn around and look, you're like, oh, it's the S. So now I don't have to like count.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, Wilbur, the WT60 as well as the WT60 is just edges out the ANSI to me. I wish it was more readily available. But next question is from Frothy KK, our boy Frothy. What's a cool feature of QMK that I should use?
Do you guys have any ideas? Like what's a cool feature that you guys have used?
There's one that I haven't used it personally, but I kind of want to, and that's the sound feature. Like so for the OSA, that's in QMK and in VIA. But you can,
Thank you, Wilbur.
Yeah, thanks, Wilbur. You can actually wire some of the like I think it's like actually for the LEDs, like you can wire it to where you can put a piezo speaker on it and and it'll and program the plug-in sounds, the startup sounds.
Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned that because for a period of time we had a library QMK firmware of songs that people were just putting in. Like some people had I think we had like Guns N' Roses in there at some point, but then someone casually mentioned, aren't these copyright violations? And we're like, well, crap. I'm like, surely the stuff like like Mozart stuff shouldn't be copyright violations, right? Like stuff that's so old that it's in the public domain. But better safe than sorry, so we just wiped it all. But if you revert back far enough, you can still find them.
There you go. Well, but please send us a WT60C. I'm beyond excited. But let's see. Is there anything? I don't really know. I mean, I love macros, and macros have made my life easier. Thank you for finally getting macros in VIA, because I've been without macros for a while. Honestly, I mean, I'm just coming from someone whose most favorite keyboard layout is a 60%. Just layers in general. I mean, it's not literally rocket science, but just being able to customize it exactly how you want it. Try. I guess I'd suggest try something new, try something different. There's a lot of things you can control that you might not have realized you were able to control. And I still learn stuff like all the time. Someone was just talking in our Discord the other day about how you can set up print screen to just open up the snipping tool. So, which isn't really, I mean, that's more just Windows than QMK, but still, like, print screen's not really on a lot of boards these days that are not CP layout. So,
As for me, like if anyone ever looks at my key map, it's rather simplistic. All I have is like your base layer. Then for layer 1, I've got like F1 through like F12, and I've got a reset key and stuff. But that's pretty much it in terms of the key code that I use. The feature that I really like from QMK is so if you're on QMK Configurator, like you pick your board and then you pick your layout. And you notice some of those layouts are called, for example, layout _60 _ ANSI. And for those in the know, layout 60 ANSI is your standard 60% layout with your 6.25U spacebar, your 2.75U right shift, yada, yada, yada. So what happens is, this is the feature that I like. Within QMK, you can set up a key map per layout instead of a key map per keyboard. So basically, I have a key map for the layout 60 ANSI layout. So what happens is any board that I create, and it can be a TX60, it can be a Duck Eagle, it can be any 60% out there. As long as I keep the layout the same, I just have to ever maintain one key map. And that will work across all my boards. And I like that because I'm lazy. I don't want to maintain like 15 key maps.
yeah, my key map folder is now VIA is really going to destroy the my key map folder, but that is it. Definitely back when I had the L3 and a lot of different DZ60 layouts. It was like there's like 9 different ones just for a 60% PCB. So
yeah, DZ60 is probably the most. I think it's the board with the most layout in terms of 60%.
it's Swiss cheese.
Dude, yeah. The bottom row of that board might as well just be like
It's a giant hole.
Yeah. Just 3 holes all the way across the board.
just find it. Just hopefully the plate will have it in the right spot.
Yeah, right.
Just hand wire that bottom row.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's the quality of the PCB went up, but I'm like, I mean, it's fine, but it's still just Swiss cheese. when the 4th row is, you still can't use the full benefit of PCB mounted switches.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
There's a problem. I don't really mind a busy bottom row, but come on. I shouldn't have to align my C key.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like it's one of those things that it being marketed as a like a beginner PCB, it's also like one of the hardest to work on because of that, because you're having to align your keys, and if you're new, you're like, why are my keys all rubbing?
You had to do that.
So they throw you in the thick of it. That's like a rite of passage, though. Yeah. DZ60.
Yeah, it is. Is it even still sold?
Yeah, it's like Rev 4 or 5 now. Honestly, the newest one not like it's not the worst. It still has bad Swiss cheese, but rip leaky PCBs, absolutely.
Leaky PCBs are terrible.
But it still has all the Swiss cheese, but like it's black now. It's got a nice finish on it. Like they've upped the quality of the actual PCB, but the layout still. I mean, and I get it. Like the layout has to be like that because it has its place in the sense of, all right, cool. You want to sell something to the most amount of people for an inexpensive price.
Sense.
It has its place, but what 60% PCB would you recommend to a beginner? The ANSI. The ANSI is the 60% PCB I would recommend because it's the 60% PCB that I like the most that is currently available.
It is also available in the United States and is one of the few 60% that have an electrostatic discharge protection chip, ESD protection chip.
There you go. I didn't even know that.
We had someone in our Discord that's dealing with a static issue right now with their NK65. They have fried some switches.
Shocking.
So, yeah.
2U left shift should be, and the plate should be. I've gotten literally like all the way to the point where why is this not fitting? And then being like, cool, now I have to wait another. Like this was back when the only place you could get a plate was either AliExpress or KBD Fans. And I had the build ready and I sat down, I got the time for it, and started putting things in. And I was like, why doesn't this fit? And then I realized I got the wrong plate.
Oh man, yeah.
And I was just like, cool. All right, well, I guess I'll continue this build in 2.5 weeks. I just waited. I didn't even because I didn't have the caps for it either.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and back to talking about the DZ60 now. The new ones, you feel like you could take it, you could desolder it and not completely destroy it, whereas before it was like, it was very questionable.
I've ruined my fair share of DZ60s.
Yeah, I believe like some of the earlier revisions, someone in the community tracked down the exact USB port that was being used, and it was literally bottom shelf USB port, cheapest of the cheap, which is why a lot of people were receiving DZ60s where the USB port was only taking power but not data.
There was it was the HS60 that had
another
that was a very I know that V2 did a lot better. I was very disappointed in the HS.
Really?
That was one of the first. It didn't get power. If I turn the LED red, the whole thing bricked.
Did you get the V1?
Yeah.
Okay, that might explain why. Because V1
I still have it. It's still sitting in my closet. But the V1 just not. This isn't a hate. This is you got to make mistakes before you release perfection, right? Like the V1, it was just not a great setup. And then on top of that, now I'm never going to use it because I don't use ANSI. I like split right shift and split backspace. But it's just sitting in my closet, and I used it for a long time. It's just like a tester.
Okay.
It's just like a.
To be fair, that was, I believe, the V1. Yang hand soldered every single one of them.
Oof.
So it was a very daunting process.
Unfortunately, that PCB never really saw the light of for me.
That was a long time ago at this point. Like,
oh yeah,
that was like
that was spring of 2018, or spring of 2018.
Yeah,
it was near the beginning of hot swaps. Really, kind of that craze starting.
That's why I got it, because I was like, "What? That's a hot swap board. I can just throw switches in whenever I want." Like, I know
V3 is coming out. I'm assuming since Novel Keys carried V2, Novel Keys will also carry V3. And I believe V3 will have USB-C. Basically, the only difference is USB-C, and everything else is the same as V2, I think.
Love me some USB-C.
Instant 60 though for right now, if you're okay
A
with
wizard on deck.
LEDs.
Mm,
A
yeah.
wizard on deck, absolutely, or Mechs on Merlin.
Mechs on Merlin.
You doing- That's, I mean, for a, like Gondo, like obviously yes, for the open, the people who don't want an open relationship with their keyboard, and you don't, you know, I prefer soldering in, but hot swap is just, yeah, there it is, commitment issues. You know, sometimes you don't want to get that brand new keyboard and that brand new PCB soldering switches just to realize you flipping hate them.
Yeah. Are you cheating on your keyboard, Chewy?
He's just in
It's-
he's in a polyamorous relationship with his keyboard.
It's 10 p.m. Where is your keyboards or where are your switches?
I use, just like Metal Chuck said, I use hot swap to break in switches. If I want to really like
Yeah.
feel how a switch feels, then I'll throw it in the hot swap for a couple weeks, see how I like it, and then if I want to lube it up or want to change the lube out, then I'll either add more, clean them, and change it, and then do the whole process over again. It's really nice to have the flexibility of hot swap.
Mhm. And the other thing too that's great is it's not like the whole community stopped and switched over to hot swap.
I don't
Like-
really like hot swap still.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there are a
there-
lot of boards that are hot swap.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that don't like hot swap, and what's great is the community hasn't, like, they've definitely spent a lot of focus on hot swap, but at the end of the day there's only so much you can do to making a PCB the absolute best that it can be.
Yeah.
And we never really lost like a whole lot of focus on trying to improve PCBs. If anything, it was like it helped kind of grow PCBs as a whole together. And so
Mhm.
for beginners, like I would have loved to teaching myself how to solder. So that was a
Yeah,
daunting
except
task.
one thing that hot swap PCBs brought to the community was not all 60s support hot swaps anymore, because
Yep.
sometimes like the standoffs are way too thick that the hot swap socket doesn't sit around it perfectly. So you end up having like a bow in your PCB.
Yeah.
And then what's the other, breaking the, like if you don't put it like on something, you'll
Yeah.
pop out a
Just
hot
break
swap
the-
socket, and then you're like, cool, what do I fix? I'm like, oh, you just solder it. It's like the whole,
Yeah.
Well, I bought this so
Yeah.
I didn't have to do that, so I guess I'm screwed.
Yeah,
Oh.
someone on the someone on the KBD family who I met at SoCal helpingly told me hot swap doesn't save you from soldering. Hot swap saves you from desoldering.
yep.
Yeah, because for me, that's the biggest thing, is like going back. If I would have had a hot swap for my first board instead of a soldered, I would have been able to try so many more things in the community. Because
Oh yeah.
like, since I've joined, like when I first built my first board, box switches weren't like a thing. Zelios were still fairly new.
Hmm.
And like it was literally like, at that point, I think at least online it was still like, oh, Gatorons are the like crappier version of cherry switches. If you can't get cherry switches, or if you can't afford cherry, just get Gatoron. Like,
Yeah.
So and granted, there were some people, there were murmurs of people being like, no, dude, they're better. But for the most part, it was a lot of people still hating on Gatoron. So, but it would have been nice to be able to have a hot swap so I could swap out when box switches came out and get some box whites or some box jades and navies. But I would have had to have desoldered, which I did once to my Tada, and I basically destroyed a Tada PCB because it's kind of poop.
Yeah. That Tada PCB, oh my god. Okay, but to the Tada 68's credit, I like that flashing a lot. So
Mhm.
Basically, you plug the board in, and it shows up as a hard drive on your desktop. Then you take your hex file and you just copy
Place it
paste.
in. Yep.
Yeah, it's like everyone who can use a computer knows how to do that already. So I
Yeah.
thought it was a good way of flashing your board.
Well, they had an implementation that was like QMK Configurator before
Mhm.
QMK Configurator was out.
Yeah, it was called KB firmware.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any more questions, by the way, for us or Mech, by all means, ask away.
Functional's right. Definitely probably saved some caps, but
Oh, rip SA Lime.
yeah.
Those had deep cracks. I sold that board though. I sold it. It was old box switches with cracked caps. And I told the guy, I was like, just letting you know, like, this is super jacked up. And he's like, all right, go for it. I don't care. And I told him, I was like, they stay. Like, you can drag your hand across and they stay because they're too big. But this is probably kind of like, it's built. I wouldn't touch it anymore. And he was like, yeah, all right, whatever. I was like, all right, dude, sweet. Thanks.
By the way, this is a ticking time bomb. So at any point in time, all these switches all these caps could break. But yeah, here you go.
Here's, could still buy a new PCB. So,
True.
Zark asks for MechMerlin, when can I win another Ludite or Luddite?
So that's like an inside joke on my channel. Zark has won a majority of my giveaways for some odd reason or another.
That's like when we first started Kinnick.
Yep.
I'm not sure if he's here right now, but he won like 3 or 4 giveaways in a row. And it was like his name on the Discord was Kinnick, banned from giveaways for a long time. So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so real quick, just a shout out for next week if you guys have any more questions. Just a little go ahead for next week. Next week we'll have our normal episode on Monday. We'll be talking about some fun stuff, some spicy topics as well.
Ooh.
We've got that. We're just mapping that, getting everything ready for the episode. We've got the Tengu build next Tuesday. What days are these? I should have those days up.
Tengu Tuesdays.
Tengu Tuesday. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you for the hashtag.
Tengu Tuesday.
So it's gonna be the 28th. All these are 8 p.m. Central Time. Our schedule is down below. And on the 29th, we'll be talking to Mr. Drifting Bunnies with the Austin. He had just finished up that group buy. So we'll be chatting it up with him as well next Wednesday. So it looks like there are no more questions. So we will move in to final 2.
Yeah, so the first one being the more serious of the 2. What is your favorite and least favorite thing about the community right now?
Oh my gosh. I think I'm gonna give the same answer to both. My favorite thing right now is that as someone who's been part of the community roughly 2013, I love how there are so many options. Like every month there's something new. Like okay, so like back then it felt like, oh, a group buy came. If I don't get in on this group buy, it'll be a couple months before the next group buy. So it's like, crap, if I miss this, I'm screwed. But these days, it's like group buy after group buy, 5 in a week, 10 in a week. There's just so much. And I love the option. Like, I can actually figure out what I want. But at the same time, I absolutely hate that. I was talking with Quakums just yesterday. I was telling him, I legitimately wish there would be a month where there would be nothing. Like it's like after what's happening, like these last couple of months, there would be just a month where there's
Just a breather.
nothing. It's just to breathe. They're like, and like And like, oh sure, I can look at what's available next month. I can look at what's available 2, 3 months from now, but just this month, nothing's happening. So my wallet can recuperate. I can take a breather from Geek Hack, from watching the news channels, just be like, ah.
I
Yeah.
think that's the first where we've said we've gotten like there's. It used to be great. That's great that they're good options.
Yeah. But it's true though, because it's like, I mean, I've said this before, like early 2018, there was a point where there was like one, maybe two key sets running a month, and I was like, man, I could seriously just buy, like, I could buy a set every month.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And then
You still can.
well, yeah, you still can, but you miss out. Whereas before it was like,
Yeah.
I would buy everything and then I'd figure out when it gets there, I could be like, oh, I don't really like this actually. Let me just sell it, right? Now you could still do that, but you're missing out on so much because we've got like 10 to 15 sets running a month. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, so what? It's like I'd say each set is roughly $140. So if you have 10 sets, that's a lot of money.
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Not to mention, like, we've got keyboards selling out in like minutes when there's like 200 spots.
Oh, absolutely.
My issue with keyboards, this is a quick vent, is like they're like, hey guys, the group buy for this keyboard is going to be in about 4 days. It's going to be at like 6 a.m. and 10 spots. And you're like, cool. So you said you announced this board like 6 months ago. And then you announced the group buy in 4 days. They're like, well, I told 3 people on Discord. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's in 4 days. I don't have time to like, I want to see group buy with keyboards be like, hey, it's going to be next month. It's going to be this day. It's going to be in this day 6 weeks from now or something.
Absolutely.
So people have time to go, oh, okay, well, let me save up.
Yeah.
So. But then your chances are even.
Yeah.
It's like I think
you're fighting against people that have saved up.
I think we're in the golden age of keyboards right now because there's just so many options. So I think like I think this is good because this means more people will be part of the hobby. And with more people part of the hobby, some of those people are our next designers, are our next vendors, are our next, Mechs on decks, people, MechMerlins, top clacks, So it's just more people in the hobby, more content, more products.
More spice.
Yes,
More
more
drama.
spice. More drama. More content then, right?
Yeah, more content.
Mechs on
Well,
deck knows. Melons on deck.
Melons on deck. They're just like chopping melons on your deck.
Delphin, my solder bro. Thank you for the 50 bit.
Dude, we need to that's a good point you just brought up. We need to do a episode of Mechs on Deck from a deck.
Yes.
Like,
I'm okay with it.
You could just have like a PowerPoint too. It'd be like, this is my deck.
but it'd be funny if it was like on the dock, like on a deck, like overlooking like a lake or something. That'd be pretty.
That would be beautiful.
nice,
actually, that'd be really beautiful.
I also
just
want to
make sure
get,
you've got like mufflers on
Yeah.
all of your mics.
I want to
Green
get
screen
also
it.
like a deck of cards that's this big, and then I'll stand on that and be like, it's Mechs on deck, and then just see how many times we can do that.
You can have like a deck of cards. Our first topic is.
It's just not. It's not your face cam. It's literally just you. It's just a picture of your feet.
Just to prove.
Yeah, just to prove.
Yeah.
So our last question: the Office or Parks and Recreation?
The Office.
Ooh, that was quick.
It's my wife and I's favorite watching since even before we started dating.
It was the
and
show
it's disappearing from Netflix apparently, so we were trying to watch it again.
There you go. The Office is the first show now wife and I watched when we started. That was like the show we went through. And
what's your favorite scene?
I will for it now. I personally on this now but it's like 1-2 for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
favorite TV
close.
shows. And Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a close third.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
But of all the shows, I still think that the dinner party episode is the best episode of television ever. It is the funniest. I still like cry laugh every single time.
That's on the Office.
Yeah,
the dinner party episode.
I don't know which one that is.
Oh man, I don't know
Have
how
to
you
look that
don't.
up.
It's whenever Jan and him have Pam and Jim and Angela and Andy over, and he's like, "Yeah, sometimes I just sit here and I just watch TV all day on my 15-inch plasma."
All right, I'm
And-
gonna have to watch this tonight.
It's seriously
hilarious.
one of the best.
Yeah.
But it's also got one of the only episodes of TV I can't watch.
The Scott's Tots. Yeah, dude.
That's the one where he promises the college kids money.
Oh, okay.
He
yeah,
promised
I
them
know
like
this.
when they were
Yeah.
kindergartners that he
Yeah.
would send them all to college.
And
I remember this. Yeah.
And
that
then
one I can't watch.
yeah, that's like one of the episodes where it's just too much. It's too cringy.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm Office. Chewy's the Parks and Rec #1. I'm Office #1. It's hard for me to
Cool.
say favorite episode just because so many of them are like awesome. Like there's so many.
There's so many bangers.
Well, you have your funniest moments, and then you have like your most like heartwarming moments.
Oh yeah.
Like the Jim and Pam when they get married episode, when it just takes
Under
the full
waterfall.
just takes the full right turn and they go in under the waterfall at Niagara Falls. It's
It's Viagra Falls. Had to. So well, thank you, Mr. Merlin. You have been a pleasure of a guest, a very pleasuring guest.
Well now.
Whoa.
Hey there.
Okay. After the show.
Sorry.
You're supposed to save that for the after party, okay?
Yeah, the after show party. So, but thank you. If you would like to plug anything you have coming up, by all means.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning of the show, if you're in the Seattle area or are relatively close to the Seattle area, we will be having our winter meetup. I said winter meetup. Winter meetup this coming Saturday at the Living Computer Museum. Bring a keyboard and you get free entry. What else? I will be doing more build streams. I'll be building my Satisfaction 75 sometime next week. Maybe I'll do it kind of like a Tengu Tuesday, but a Satisfaction Saturday.
Boom.
There you go.
Yeah, Satisfaction Saturday. And yeah, that's pretty much it. GMK Merlin should be shipping 2 Kono and associated proxies in February.
Nice.
Very nice. So,
yeah.
Quick rundown of our sponsors. You can go to mechsondec.dixiemech.com to pick up GMK Burgundy Round 2. So be sure to grab that. Switchmod.net/mechsondeck for 4% off your order. You can use the only good promo code switchmod.net/chewy.
Oh my god.
That will give you $5 off, or switchmod.net/osiris to get you $5 off GMK Metaverse until April. Zap Cables, you can go pick up a pre-made cable. You can go get desk mats. He's got awesome stuff as well. Project keyboards. Show off that Tengu one more time.
Tengu.
We'll be building it. Tengu Tuesday coming up.
Tengu
You guessed it, Tuesday.
Hashtag Tengu Tuesday.
Can't wait. So be sure to check that out. And you can go pre-order this now until I believe February. So if you can use if you use our reference code there, it definitely helps out the stream. So be sure to check that out. We are gonna go. I think Apiary is live, and I want to go. I want everyone.
Oh,
Yes.
Chewy's about to spit some spice at her. She's gonna throw some shade. He's gonna slap a bass on her face.
Oh my
Ooh,
gosh.
the sick rhymes. If you were in our Discord today, we found out that Apiary does not like Chick-fil-A, and as two very southern raised, southern born boys, Chick-fil-A is it runs deep in our veins. It's heavy on our hearts. We love some Chick-fil-A, and she disrespected
Yes.
our lifeblood, Chick-fil-A.
So go blast her channel, Chick-fil-A #1. And we will we'll be we'll be there, and be sure to check her out. She's an amazing builder. So thank you guys. We will see you next Monday. Thank you very much.